Hi everyone, welcome to Make Moments Matter, a music education podcast, where I share lesson ideas, songs, games, and inspiring things for your elementary music classroom. My name is David Rao, and I am the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. This episode of the podcast is a replay containing the audio version of a Musical Mondays live video. If you're not familiar with Musical Mondays, every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, I go live on Facebook and Instagram to share about the lessons that I'm using in class with my students. I give a recap of my kindergarten through 5th grade lessons, and then do a deep dive about one grade level and share the books, instruments, songs, and process that I use to teach the lesson to kids. This podcast episode contains all the audio from the Musical Mondays video, but if you'd like to see a replay of the video itself, you can find a link to the archived video on YouTube when you click the link in the notes for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in. Here's the show. Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. You can also find my ideas on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, TikTok, and a variety of other places when you search for my name, David Rao, or Make Moments Matter. I'm really excited to be back again tonight to share a little bit about children's books, some ways you can incorporate those in your classroom, where to find those, how to start looking for those, and some of my favorite little tips for that. That's something I'm going to start sharing about tonight and maybe share more next week too. Instagram, sorry, I don't know why last week the technology cut out in the middle. I'm so sorry. I hope the video works this week and that y'all can hear me. Crossing my fingers. Okay, so before I get started, a couple housekeeping things. In case you want to get direct links to the books and things that I talk about in this video, there's a whole website or a whole page on my website about where to find those links. You can go to makemomentsmatter.org and click the video tab, or at the bottom of the caption for wherever you're watching, listening, you should be able to find a direct link for that. So if you hear me say it's on the links page, that's what I'm talking about. Also, if you want to join, there's a Facebook group, Every Moment Matters Music Education Community, and that's on Facebook if you want to join and ask questions, learn from friends, make new friends. It's a great place to learn more together. Okay, and then one more thing. Usually I do this Monday night live video, and then I take the audio and I turn it into a podcast and I share it through my podcast. And it's been a while since I've had like separate standalone episodes because it's just, this is a lot, and doing workshops and stuff and sharing things on TPT, it takes a lot of time. So I haven't had a lot of time to do like separate, different podcasts. But in 2018, I was fortunate enough to interview 10 different people all about what, basically about the world of Orff Schulwerk. What is Orff Schulwerk? Why you should be interested, what it's all about, how to get like little bits and pieces, why you should take training, why you should join a workshop. I asked lots and lots of questions, and I had 10 different interviews with people from all around the country and got really wonderful and amazing answers. There's a whole episode just about like how to get started, one about all recorders, one about ukulele, one about Orff and Kodály, one about, there are all these different things that I talked with all these folks about, and it's been 5 years. So I was like, why not re-release those? Why not put those back out there? So if you check your podcast feed, there was an episode that went out last week. There will be another one coming out this week. This is sort of an encore episode of those episodes, so you don't have to scroll back several years to find them. But they're really great conversations. I hope that y'all enjoy them. So those are back out. Check your podcast feed. The first one is already there. More are coming. Okay, let's talk about children's books. I love children's books. It is very easy to get overwhelmed by children's books because there are so many. And how do you find the ones that are perfect for your classroom? And even if you do, how do you use them in your classroom? And so I want to talk a little bit about those questions tonight. And there's no way we're going to get to all of the questions that could be answered about children's books. But if you have a direct question about a specific book I'm sharing or about something along the process, please drop a comment and I will try and respond to it. Okay, so where to find children's books? Because they are very expensive. If you're buying brand new, even if you're like, I'm getting it from the Scholastic Book Fair and I got my discount or whatever, it's still very expensive. So how do you get the resources for your classroom and not break the bank? Well, there are 4 websites I really love to use where you can get discount books. 3 of them are websites that will give you books that have been used before. So either from like they went to like a Half Price Books and bought out a bunch of books, or they went to like a library clearance sale and bought all those used copies up and then are reselling them. And usually you can get like a hard copy book for $3.99, $2.99, as opposed to paying like $14.50 or $19.20 or what, whatever you're paying for like a brand new book. And so they're very, very affordable. And my students don't care if my book says like discard from Johnson County Public Library. Like, they don't care. And so I don't mind getting those books. And usually if you're getting books from one of those websites, it's going to be a nicer copy because it like lived through a library. So it'll be like a library binding or a hardback with like a dust cover. I mean, usually they're nicer books. So 3 websites you should check out, and these are listed on the links page. BetterWorldBooks.com, thriftbooks.com, and abebooks.com. If you have another discount book website like that you really love, please drop that in the comments too, and I'll be sure to reshare that. Of those 3, my favorite one is Better World Books. Why? They're all great. They all have a lot of good inventory, and I would say if you're looking for a specific book, check all 3 because it's like a thrift store for books. One may have it, one may not have it. They might be out, so just check around and see if you can find it. If you're looking for a specific book. My favorite of those 3 is Better World Books. Why? Because there is no minimum for free shipping. Thrift Books, I think for a long time you had to have like $20 worth of purchases to get free shipping, and Better World Books does not do that. So that's my favorite of the 3. There's one more website I want to tell you about. It's called Book Outlet. And it is different from Better World Books and Thrift Books and ABE Books because they go and they buy brand new, unused books that are just selling for real cheap. So if like an independent bookstore goes out of business, or if a publisher orders a super large run on books and then just doesn't sell all of them, they're trying to liquidate. So they'll go to like a Big Lots or to somewhere else to try and liquidate those books. And another way they can do it is through this website, bookoutlet.com. So if you go to Book Outlet, you will find never been touched books before, newer books. But what I'll say is that bookoutlet.com does not have the inventory that the other websites have because they only have like the overstock things that they have found. They don't have years and years and years of books. It's probably going to be newer books that just for some reason didn't sell as much. And so it's really cool. One time I ordered a book for like $3.99. It showed up and it was signed by the author. It had been like part of a purchase for like a small used bookstore, or a small independent bookstore, and it just not sold, and they liquidated it, and I got a brand new copy signed by the author for like $3. Anyway, those are my 4 favorite. Those are listed on bookoutlet.com. They're listed on makemomentsmatter.org on the links page, and you can find them there. But I will also see if I can drop those in the comments. So those are my favorite places to buy books. How do you find books? So how to look. I would say if you're looking with a purpose, if you're like, I want to find a book based on a song, or I want to make sure that I have, I'm trying to teach this specific concept, or I'm trying to look for something that teaches form, or, you can go in looking at books like that. And a great resource would be to talk to your kindergarten, first grade, second grade teachers and say like, hey, I'm really looking for a book that has X, Y, and Z, a repetitive phrase or something I can copy, or something that's like food themed, but I need whatever. Talk to your librarian too at your school. They know all the books that go through and they see a lot of things. And so they might say, well, hey, have you heard of XYZ? No, I haven't. Please, let me go get a copy. So for example, I told my librarian, I was like, I'm doing a concert later on this semester all about food. I would love to have a couple food books to use in the process. And she was like, great. And she's like, here are 5 titles. And then 2 hours later, a kid comes down holding another stack of books like, Mrs. Potachik said you would want some more books. And she had thought of a few more. And so ask around. That's a great place to start. The other thing I would say is go to a bookstore and just browse, because you never know, if you're looking for a specific book, you might miss a lot of other books along the way. So if you're like, I want to have XYZ book, cool. Well, then also just sit and browse and just open up a bunch of books, see what inspires you, because the more that you look, the more that you'll find. And just keep a catalog, keep an idea of what of things you like. Have a special note on your phone that you just write down, like name, title, author, and then like the hook thing that you thought, oh, this talked about food and it had a repetitive phrase, or this had a narwhal in it, or whatever, whatever specific thing you're trying to look for. Just browse, ask around, and you can find a lot of things. And I would say don't limit yourself to like the music books. Don't be like, oh, but I'm just going to look at because and who the composer is dead, and I'm not going to look just at like the music section. Like look at all of the books, because there are so many great books out there that don't like have a tuba on the front that are just amazing books. So just go out and look and see what you can find. Then what can you do with them? Well, there are a lot of things you can do with them depending on what your focus is. And so I would say there are a lot of options. Let me show you some books that I currently have or just pulled or just got that I thought would maybe be great examples. So let me show you a couple things. So like let's say you want to have a book that you can sing, or you want to have a story. There are a lot of books that are books based on songs. And actually I'll put on the links page, I have lists on Amazon. They're like ideas lists, and basically I can go through and just make lists of all the books I find that are books that are based on songs, or books about composers or musicians' lives, books that feature a certain group of people, or books that are about holidays. I have tons of these lists, so if you're like, I want to find more books, I have a bunch of these lists. So if you're interested, I have a whole book that is like a song, but they made a book version of it. So like there are a couple Bob Marley songs, like they made books of. A couple Beatles songs, they made books of. Dolly Parton songs, they made books of. Just like, or like Old MacDonald Had a Farm, there are a bunch of versions of that. There are lots and lots of books out there. So if you're looking for a book that's based on a song, or like an illuminated version of that song, I have a whole list on Amazon. Go check it out. There are a lot of things to find. But if you're looking for a book that you can sing, great. There are so many cool options. It doesn't even just have to be a song. It could be a book that doesn't have a song along with it, that you just add a song, like this one, Peanut Butter and Cupcake by Terry Border. I shared about this a couple years ago. It's one that I used at the beginning of the school year for a couple different grades, and it's just a cute little book, but there's a little repeated phrase, and I just started singing it one day. So I'll just show you a couple pages. Peanut Butter got a ball for his birthday. He was kind of bad at kicking it with his feet, but was kind of good at balancing on his head. Still, it wasn't much fun playing with the ball all by himself. Want to play with me? He asked his mom. They'd just moved to town and Peanut Butter didn't have any friends yet. I think you should go outside and find someone to be your new friend, she answered. Peanut Butter liked that idea very much, so off he went, and it wasn't long before he saw a someone. Hello, I'm new here and I'd like to play. Maybe now, maybe later, even all day. I'll make you chuckle down deep in your belly, and we'll go together like peanut butter and Hamburger. I'm sorry, said Hamburger, but I'm busy walking the dogs. Thanks for asking, though. You're welcome, said Peanut Butter. Maybe next time. And he kept walking. It's a cute song. He keeps meeting people, and I keep singing that little refrain. There is not like, sheet music at the back that you can sing it. I shared about this lesson several years ago, and so if you're like, I want to see the whole book, whole lesson, I can try and find that video and link it on the links page, or you can just, look back through my other videos. But you can find a lot of books that like either you can sing them, or there can be a sung component. There are a lot of fun ways to add singing to books, but you don't need that. Sometimes I like to have books that like lead us into a lesson. So this book, Drum City, is a great example. This is by Thea Guidon. I don't know if that's how I'm pronouncing it right, but I hope so. I'll show you just a couple pages of this one. It's like going to lead us into a lesson, or be like the hook for a lesson. Drum, drum, boy in the yard, drumming so hard, calling all kids to come drum in the yard. Drum on some kettles and cans, here they come. They run to the beat of the drum. Drum! Bowls and buckets, cartons and cans, barrels and bins and pots and pans, mops on pails and rusty old nails, a frolicking, rollicking ruckus of rumbling drums. The whole thing is talking about how like people taking these non-instrument items and basically treating them as drums. And so this, for me, is a lesson that leads into using non-musical things as percussion instruments. How can you find sound? How can you what can make those sounds? It's just a great hook for that lesson, right? Another great example of this where it's like a hook for a lesson is this, my new favorite book. I got it just this week. I've been looking at it online and I just got it like just over the weekend. I love it. Okay, I'll show you a couple pages. This is called The Oboe Goes Boom 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 by Colleen A.F. Venable. It's time! Are you excited? I bet you are, because today you're joining the band! I'm Mr. V, your band director. There is a perfect instrument for everyone. Let's find yours. Okay, great start, right? Okay. You could play the clarinet. Clarinets are part of the woodwind family. See this tiny stick? It may look like it belongs in a popsicle, but it's actually science. That's me. We call it a reed. That's not me. It's popsicle stick saying that's not me. When you blow on it, it wiggles back and forth, and all that wiggling produces a musical note. The harder you blow, the faster the reed vibrates, and the louder the sound. But be careful! Squeaks! If you blow too hard, the clarinet will squeak and mice will fall in love with you. I'm kidding. That's only happened once. Listen to a clarinet. It's like eating rich chocolate cake, bold and sweet at the same time. Sid, are you ready to demonstrate? The clarinet goes boom, boom, boom. Felicity, I'm glad you're excited, but please wait your turn. I'll talk about the drums soon. But first, let me tell you about, and then it goes on, and every page, like the trumpet, and it talks all about the trumpet, how it makes sound. Okay, now we're going to listen to what a trumpet sounds like, and Felicity interrupts with a drum. Hilarious. I love it. But if you're trying to like introduce instruments to the orchestra, if you're trying to introduce different sounds or talk about band instruments, this is a cool book. Also, it's just hilarious. Twist with Felicity at the end and about does she want to play percussion or not. Oh my gosh, you got to get the book to find out. Okay. But those can just like be a hook for a lesson, right? They can like be the thing that leads you in to talk about the lesson. Okay, another one that's like illustrates what we want to do, or like a concept is this one, Squeak, Rumble, Womp, Womp, Womp. This is by Wynton Marsalis. Super cool book. Our back door squeaks. A noisy mouse eeks. It's also how my sister's saxophone sometimes speaks. Big trucks on the highway rumble. Hunger makes my tummy grumble. The big bass drum goes boom, brum, brumble. Tlock, 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 our faucet needs a fix. Click, clock, click, clock, my alarm clock ticks. Funk, flock, clock, flock, 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 flick. Pizzicato violinists plick, pluck, licks. So I think this is cool because it has students start listening for sounds, different things around them, and then try and equate them with like other sounds they hear. It has them sort of make connections, and a lot of times it does that with instruments, like, oh, the woo 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 of an ambulance or a motorcycle sort of sounds like a trombone sliding. Like, it's just a really cool book that makes those, or helps kids make those connections. Like if I wanted kids to think about sounds around them or sounds they hear or what does that instrument sound like, it's just a really cool book to do that. That's Squeak, Rumble, Womp, Womp, Womp by Wynton Marsalis. And so all of those are like a hook for leading into another lesson. Another one that I really love is this one called Bach to the Rescue. This is by Tom Engelberger. And this is different. This is not going to lead us into the lesson. This is like if I wanted to talk about history or culture or give like a little bit of context to a specific person. This is a great book. So let me show you just a couple pages. Hey, it's me, Bach, the greatest composer ever. Have I ever told you the story about Goldberg and the rich dude who couldn't sleep? It happened about 225 years ago, but I think it's better to start a story like this with Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, there was a rich dude who couldn't sleep. Now, if a normal person can't sleep, they just have to deal with it. But this rich dude was so rich, he could pay someone else to deal with it. So when this rich dude couldn't sleep, which was every night, he would yell, Goldberg! Goldberg was the rich dude's personal musician. I told you, this rich dude was rich. He even had his own musician. And if he wanted to hear a song at 3 o'clock in the morning, then Goldberg was supposed to play it. Unfortunately for everyone, Goldberg lived in the basement, so the rich dude had to yell, "Goldberg!" really loud. Even worse, Goldberg was hard to wake up because he was still tired from being woken up the night before and the night before that and so on. So the rich dude had to yell really loud. And when the butler woke up, he would yell too, "Goldberg!" And when the maids woke up, they would yell too, "Get out of bed, Goldberg! Wake up already!" And when the rest of the village woke up, they would all yell too, "Goldberg, wake up, you dumb dope! Grrr! Dang that Goldberg!" Okay, so basically it's like the story of the Goldberg variations and how they came to be and why they came to be. Anyway, and it talks about Bach and anyway, it's a super cool. The kids love it. It looks like a comic strip. They also just love that, like, the sort of informal speech patterns and how, you know, like how it's really like treating you like it's talking directly to you. It's a super cool book. But for me, this is like great. This is way more accessible to talk about Bach than I'm left with, like, let me play Toccata in D or whatever. Like, this is just a really accessible way to get some of that history in. And also, for me, so these last couple weeks on the weekend, and maybe this next weekend as well, be watching for it, I've been doing giveaways because I have all these books that I really love, and I've made these companion resources called like book companions, where basically like along with the book, so like you buy the book and then I have like a lesson outline, so possible lesson outline of how you might teach this lesson. So like go through the story, along the way, things you could talk about. It also comes with worksheets. It also comes with coloring pages. It also comes with more coloring pages. Bach at a harpsichord. Okay. Also some like fill in the blank, some like question answers, some like multiple choice things. All with the idea that like you could either use them in your classroom in different ways or leave it for a sub. And so in that book companion kit, it comes with all those worksheety things. It also has a PowerPoint of like if you're going to give a little bit more information about Bach's life, and also links to videos and things online in case you want to show some examples of Goldberg variations or otherwise. So I've just, in the last 2 weekends, I did 2 different giveaways for these book companion resources in little bundles. There's maybe going to be one happening this weekend if you check out my Facebook page on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. But anyway, that's another great way to use a book, is if you want to leave it for a sub. You know, I have a lot of books. I can't get to all of them. And so some of them, it's fun to like leave them for a sub, because so many of our subs are like, I don't know if I want to sing with the kids, but I would read a book. You know, because a lot of times you might get a non-musical sub and they're like, I don't know if I'm comfortable singing this, whatever, or leading kids through instruments, but give me a book to read and I'd be happy to do that. And so it's fun to have books that are very cool, musical, with great connections that subs are willing to try. Okay, one more really fun book that I wanted to share, and I just say is like, you never know. So like when you're looking for books, don't just look for the Bach to the Rescue, right? Like I said before, go looking for Bach to the Rescue or whatever it is you're looking for, and then browse. So as I was going, I was a couple of years ago, I was like, you know, I want to fill out my library more. I want to make sure that I have more representation in my library. How can I do that? And so I've sort of thought, like, anytime I find specific books, I'm just going to buy them and figure out a musical concept or thing that can go in with that. And so one of the groups I wanted to make sure that I started filling out more in my library was Native peoples, Indigenous peoples, whether that's Native Americans, because I live in the United States, or anywhere around the world. I wanted to be more conscious and buy more books with Native Americans, because that just was lacking in my library, along with a couple other things, but that was one of the places I wanted to look. So as I was looking, I found some really cool books, some really amazing books. There's a whole series of books by an author named Violet Duncan, all about like hoop dancing and traditional dance and what music looks like in some Native American tribes. Super amazing. Check out Violet Duncan. All her stuff is great. But as I was looking, I also found this book. It's called Walking Eagle, the Little Comanche Boy, by Ana Alate and Nivola Uya. And it is just the most beautiful book. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to use this for, but I'm going to get it. And I'm going to figure that out later. So I know that is like bad advice to be like, just buy it and figure it out afterwards. But in this case, I was like, I know this book would would add to my library. It would add to my classroom. It would be a great addition. I'll figure out the musical part as we go. So let me show you just a couple pages. And the illustrations are just absolutely gorgeous, and it's a cool story. Walking Eagle rode along the path. They were waiting for him, like they did every evening. He told stories, tales told without words, because Walking Eagle didn't speak. He used his hands, his face, his smile, and his eyes to communicate everything that his listeners needed to hear. Walking Eagle was born club-footed. As soon as he could stand, when he was very small, he looked down and saw his feet pointing inwards, and that his legs were made the shape of a heart. He belonged to the Comanche tribe, called the Lords of the Plains, originally from the Rocky Mountains, but he also belonged to nature. Walking Eagle merged with the trees, disappearing into the forests, and the animals would approach him as he fearlessly looked them in the eyes. He hugged them and gave them names and fed them. So it keeps going. It tells more about how he would ride horses. It talked about how the path that he would take, and just these like beautiful illustrations along the way. So super, super, super cool book. Like I said, I bought it because I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Also, I love it because I teach in Kansas, and this the Comanche tribe was a plains tribe, and so I love to try and make connections that are a little closer to home. But like I said, I'm buying up books for Indigenous peoples all around the world because I feel like that's something that I want to have represented more in my classroom. So how did I integrate this in my room? Well, it took a while because I was like, I don't know, there's no like I can sing this thing, or there's no rhyme that pops up. And if there are those things in a book, great, but you don't need that. You don't have to have like a cute little rhythm that goes along with the song for the book to be great to use in your classroom. So this one, in like the very first page, it says, he told stories, tales told without words. Because Walking Eagle didn't speak, he used his hands, his face, his smile, and his eyes to communicate everything that listeners needed to hear. So a couple things in there that was like really so cool is I feel like a lot of times in elementary we try and teach songs that have words because kids can sing it and it's just very accessible. But what about if we're teaching an instrumental piece with no words? Where is there a story in there? And we know as musicians, like when you teach them the story, their articulation becomes better, their dynamics become better if they believe, if they think there's a story or a tale behind it, like it changes the way that you play. So I will use this book sometimes to talk about songs without words. Also, sometimes we'll then integrate even more and have a movement piece that adds into a song without words. And instead of singing or something and having that movement based on the word in the song, we'll have the movement based on what we feel is being told through the music. And so this is like a really cool, beautiful, vibrant book. And also with older grades, middle and older grades, you can start talking about like, well, what does the music make you feel? How do you feel that? Why do you feel that? How can you express that in different ways? And so this is just like a really cool book to have some of those conversations and sort of lead in, because it talks about like gestures and how you do that and how that can sort of lead to telling stories. And anyway, it's just a really cool book, and one that I would not have used if I hadn't like taken the leap and was like, yep, I'm going to get it. And so I'm encouraging you to be like, if you find a book that you're like, oh, I don't know, this could be really cool, but I'm not exactly sure how to use it, you should get it or like request it from your library so you can have it in your hands. Because if you like leave it at the bookstore and don't have a copy in your hands, you will not use it in your room. So even if you're like, okay, I'm not going to buy this today, get on the app that your library has, because every like local library has an app now, and like request it, put a hold, ask them to buy it, whatever you need to do so that you can have a copy of it, or ask your school librarian, hey, can we get a copy of this? Or you ask your PTO. But write down the names, write down all that, take a picture so that you can go back and look at it later, because when you have the book in your hands, you're way, way, way more likely to use it. Okay, this was just a start on children's books. There's like so much more that I could talk about, and I know I've talked about many other books along the way in the last couple of years, but this is just a start to the conversation. So I hope to talk more in the coming weeks, but if you have comments, questions, thoughts, ideas, please leave comments so that I can come back to those later in further weeks. Also, if you are interested in any of the books I talked about tonight or any of the used book websites that I mentioned, like I said, the links page has links to all of those things. Go check them out. And also, one last thing, this weekend there may be a giveaway on my Facebook page. So come back and check that out Friday, Saturday, Sunday for free books and book resources to go with books that can make your life easier. Okay, thanks so much for coming along with me tonight, everyone. Have a great night and have fun teaching your kids this week. Bye, everyone.